If you are following along with me, we are in step 4 of the collaboration tutorial, and we're going to focus now on the designer to developer workflow. I'm back here in the collaboration practice file, and I'm still in share mode. If you remember in step 2, we publish a prototype by clicking on this first artboard and defining it as home, and then selected all of the artboards that we attached to that first artboard and publish it up as a prototype. Let's assume for a moment I worked with my client and we decided we don't need the onboarding tutorial. So as I hand off my content to my developer, I just want to hand them these 4 artboards here towards the bottom. XD supports multiple workflows and multiple prototypes. Or design specs within the share mode. So what I have the ability to do is come over to prototype. I'm going to click here in the modes and switch to prototype mode. I've already defined this as a flow, and I want to leave that alone for a moment. But I want to define a second flow that really just starts at the official front door of the website. So for that, here in prototype mode, I'm going to click on the landing stakeholder artboard. Notice that, and I will zoom back out so you can have context here. Notice that as I do so, there's that little home icon to the left-hand side. Much little now that I zoom out. If I click and release on it, XD allows me to define a second flow. So I'll come in, and this one called onboarding tutorial. We'll go ahead and name this one landing page. And I'll hit return. A curious thing happens then. That landing page, if I press and drag on it, notice that it's only grabbing or selecting all of the artboards. That are linked to this artboard outwards. So although these artboards are driving to this page, they are not linked from that artboard back up. So when I define my first flow, I can press and drag it. It's going to take all of the artboards and publish them. I can define a second flow with a different first page in that flow. And decide that only some of those artboards share artboards in fact. But only some of the artboards need to be published. As part of the second flow that I'm about to work on. So now that I have that set, What I want to do is come in and make sure that I define which images I want the developer to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to design mode again. And let's just look at the set of 4 artboards that are here. When you import images into XD, we assume you're going to want to output those and export them. So by default, anytime you place an image into XD, it's going to be marked for export. If you want to clean up and just be organized about your project, one thing you can do is come on in and select everything on the design canvas. So if I pull down on Edit to select all, and here in the Properties Inspector, I can come in and uncheck the Mark for Export checkbox. That's going to make sure that nothing is marked for export. From there, I can come to individual images that I know I want exported. Let's say I want this couch here. I will come on in and select it. I can mark it for export in a couple of different ways. With it selected, I can come to the Properties Inspector and check the box here. I can also right-click and in the menu, select Mark for Export. Additionally, I can come over to the Layers panel, and in the Layers panel for that particular layer, I can mark it for export here as well. So I'm going to come through and mark some of these images for export so that we can see what it's like for the developer to consume them. Let's assume I'm all set for that and I'm ready to now hand off to my developer this set of artboards. As we know, we already went into share mode and we defined that landing page flow. That's the one that I would like to publish to my developer. So I'm going to click on it to make sure it's active. Notice that everything else gray out here in share mode. These 4 artboards, because they are the only ones are associated with the landing page flow. I can change my mind and jump to another flow if I like to. But I want to go with that landing page flow. Here in the Properties Inspector for Share Mode, under Link Settings. I like the name that I gave it, that's fine. Under View Settings, the time I'm going to select Development. I'm going to go ahead and export, not for iOS, because remember, this is a website. It's optimized for the web. I will select the web. I can choose to include any of those assets that I marked for export. So I'll go ahead and check that box. And then under link access, again, I'm not going to bother with the password for now. I'll just go ahead and create that link. Once that publishing is done, I can come in and share that with my developer. So I can copy this to the clipboard and clicking that link icon. I do want to mention here towards the top, notice in the link drop down, I have two different flows that I've defined. There's onboarding tutorial that I gave to my stakeholder, my client. And then there's this landing page flow that I've given to my developer. I can continue to have two different flows, two different processes going on. I can have multiple flows and processes, and I can see them all here. I can go in and republish to either of these links with updates. I can also choose to create a new link so that in essence, archive any of the older versions for record keeping purposes, let's say. For now, I'll stick with landing page. This is my developer, so that's good. I'm going to then come in and just click that link and bring it up in a web browser. Now, the developer experience here is going to look pretty similar. So what I just had for the prototype as a stakeholder, there's some subtle differences. What you want to assume is that when I publish for development, it has everything that a prototype has, plus a whole lot of developer specifications. So my developer here has the ability to go on in and close out, and commenting window if they like. They can jump up to the bird's eye grid view. They can see each artboard, see artboards that are linked to it. They can jump to any one of these artboards. They can navigate here towards the bottom to see individual artboards. Jump back to home if they like. On the right-hand side, they can give comments back to the designer. So if the developer has questions, they can communicate it here. Same way as I did with my stakeholders. I can receive those, come on in, and comment back, so that the developer and I are both on the same page. You'll notice there are two more tabs. If I click on View Specs, what this does is brings up the specifications for the current artboard. Notice that I can see my screen details, which images are included on that design. I can come in and select individual images. And as I do so, control how I download those as a developer. So I can go with PNG or PDF. I can see the colors that are in use, any character styles. If there are micro interactions, the auto animate transitions, I get specifications around those to make it easier for my developer. If I come in and click on the canvas, what you notice is as I do so, I get some smart guys showing me spacing details about the elements on the canvas. If there is a hierarchical structure to the design, right-clicking on the web browser, in fact, will show me that stack and will move me up in the hierarchical structure of the design. So I can dig into particular elements. As I look as a developer, if I'm coding up the site alongside the view here in the web, I can come in and capture snippets in assets. So I've got some CSS content here. So come in and select it. And that automatically copied to my clipboard. Well, okay, we have to stop at some point. This rounds out the last step in the Get Started with XD collaboration tutorial. If you haven't checked out some of the other tutorials in this series, I encourage you to do so. Goodbye.